Every survivor has a story. Every story needs a voice. Every voice can save a life. This is Breaking the Silence. Episode 2, The Mask Begins to Slip.
I woke up the next morning with that strange sensation you get in an unfamiliar place, that momentary confusion before reality settles in. Except I wasn't in an unfamiliar place. I was in my own home. And then I remembered. He was here. The marketing expert who was going to help my business. The man who needed a place to stay just for one night until he could reach his cousin. I got up and made breakfast. He joined me at the table, his demeanor different from the charming man I'd been messaging for months. He was quieter, more reserved, watchful. "The house is very cold," he said suddenly, looking around with narrowed eyes. "That's a sign of the presence of bad spirits." I nearly choked on my coffee. I hadn't been raised believing in spirits or supernatural forces. I was practical, rational. But he spoke with such authority, such certainty. "I don't think," I began, but he cut me off. "I told you yesterday I didn't feel any presence here," he continued. "But I was wrong. There's something here, something dark." He told me he was a pastor, that he had fought spiritual wars, that the things I was going through, my business struggles, my recent breakup, these were all spiritual attacks that he could help me overcome. I was skeptical, but also curious. I've always been open to learning, to new perspectives. And he spoke with such conviction, such absolute certainty, that I found myself listening despite my doubts. That day passed, and he didn't mention his cousin again. I didn't bring it up either. Something in me was already becoming hesitant, careful around him. I couldn't name it then, but looking back, I recognize it now. The first tendrils of fear were already taking root. The next day, my daughter came home from my cousin's house. She was young then, 8, maybe 9 years old. Always such a bright, cheerful child. She knew exactly what she wanted, always spoke her mind. But when she saw him, something changed. She became withdrawn, quiet. She watched him with wary eyes and stayed close to me. Children see things adults miss. They haven't yet learned to ignore their instincts, to rationalize away their discomfort. My daughter recognized something in him immediately that I was still blind to. I made lunch, tuna sandwiches. Simple, quick. I was tired, hadn't planned on cooking for a guest who was supposed to be gone by now. "The salmon isn't very good," he remarked after taking a bite. "It's tuna, not salmon," I replied with a small laugh. Just a light-hearted correction, the kind of casual banter that was normal in my world. His entire demeanor changed, his face hardened, his eyes went cold. It was as if a mask had slipped, just for a moment, revealing something underneath that made my stomach clench. The moment passed quickly. He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. But something had shifted in the room, in the air between us. I found myself being more careful with my words, watching his reactions, trying to gauge his mood. Later that day, he began examining my bedroom. He ran his hands over my wooden bed frame with a frown. "This bed is not good," he declared. "It's harboring negative energy. You need to get rid of it." "The bed?" I asked, incredulous. "But I've had it for years." "That's the problem," he said gravely. "It's accumulated years of bad energy. It's affecting your life, your business, everything." I didn't believe him, not really, but he was so insistent, so absolutely certain, and bit by bit my resistance began to crumble. Within days, my beautiful wooden bed was gone. I slept on a mattress on the floor, in my own bedroom, in my own house. He started complaining that he could hardly breathe in the house. He suggested there might be asbestos or some other contaminant. But then, in the same breath, he would say it was bad spirits causing his breathing problems. One morning he woke up and told me he had dreamed that I was wearing high heels, surrounded by snakes. He described the dream in vivid detail, his eyes boring into mine, watching my reaction carefully. Day after day, these strange pronouncements continued. The house was contaminated. My possessions were cursed. There were bad spirits surrounding me, working against me. And all the while I kept thinking, when is he going to leave? When is he going to his cousin's house? But I didn't dare ask. Somehow, in the space of just a few days, I had become afraid to question him directly. How does that happen? How does someone install such fear so quickly? I've asked myself that question 1,000 times over the years, and I still don't have a clear answer. It was like being slowly submerged in cold water so gradually that you don't realize you're drowning until it's too late. I think it was about a week after he arrived, just 7 days. That's all it took for me to go from being a confident, independent woman to someone afraid to contradict this man in my own home. Someone who would discard her own bed on the advice of a virtual stranger. Someone who was beginning to doubt her own perceptions, her own reality. One evening as I was preparing dinner, cooking elaborate meals had become an expectation now. He came into the kitchen. He stood so close behind me that I could feel his breath on my neck. My body went rigid. "You know," he said softly, "your mother is working against you." "What?" I turned to face him, spatula still in hand. "Your mother," he repeated, "she's using black magic. She's a witch." I nearly laughed. It was so absurd. My mother, a practical, hard-working woman who had sacrificed everything for her children. A witch? "That's ridiculous," I said. His expression darkened. "I've seen it," he insisted. "In my dreams, I was standing in the rain, but the rain was black, and when I looked up, I saw her watching me." Something about this story tickled at my memory. Hadn't he told me something similar before? About someone else? And then it hit me. Months ago, during our online conversations, he had told me about his ex-wife, about how they had broken up because he discovered her mother was a witch. He had described this exact same dream, the black rain, the woman watching. I felt cold all over, a clarity breaking through the fog of confusion and fear that had been building around me. He was recycling his stories, his manipulations. Had any of it been true? His marketing career, his children, his ex-wife, his cousin in my country? I opened my mouth to confront him with this realization, but the words died in my throat as I met his eyes. There was something there, something cold and calculating and utterly without empathy, that made the words freeze in my mouth. Instead, I turned back to the stove, my hands trembling slightly as I continued stirring the pot. "Dinner will be ready soon," I said quietly. Behind me, I could feel him smiling. And that night, as I lay on the mattress on my bedroom floor, listening to his breathing beside me in the darkness, I realized with perfect, terrible clarity this man was never going to leave willingly, and I had no idea how I was going to get him out.